The music they listen to.
Welcome to the Way Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sheritz, and this is the Way Out. We are an intensive outpatient program located on the corner of Plum Canyon and Bouquet Canyon. If you're listening to the show today and you or a loved one or anyone you know needs help with drug and alcohol issues, remember that asking for help is the first step. Give us a call at 296-4444 or go to our website at thewayOutRecoveryscv.com. And again, this is the Way Out Recovery Hour. Happy Monday, everybody. I come in here week after week and I give people the opportunity. Sometimes Mondays can be a little daunting for people. They look at this big week in front of them and go, oh my God, how am I going to make it through? And maybe especially during this time of year. We have we have the holiday season coming up. Kids are coming out of school. A lot of times there's big expectations on people's part. What am I going to get for Christmas? What am I going to do? I got to hold it all together for my family, on and on and on. And so the week in front of us can look very big. So I want to offer you something. If you're listening or you're watching on Facebook Live, stop and take a breath. And let's look at this. Let's change our perception a little bit. And let's take a look at this big, beautiful week that is sitting in front of us, this wonderful holiday season that we're sitting in. And let's think about not only all the things that we're grateful for, but all the opportunities that we're going to have coming in front of us. See, they don't have to be problems. They don't have to be, oh my gods, that we're facing. They can be wonderful opportunities for growth and opportunities to serve others and to be of service of those of our fellow men around us. So take an opportunity, get grateful, and happy Monday to everyone. Welcome to the show. Today's show is certainly the my most favorite topic that we're ever going to talk about, and that is just flat out recovery. We have in studio with us today some wonderful people that are in recovery and a family member who you might recognize, Alex Urbina. Hey, Alex.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm gonna let you introduce our guest today, and then we'll jump right into our show.
Yeah. So probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I met you, Bob, and one of the things that really opened my eyes to this whole recovery process was watching my sister, Angie, my youngest sister, struggle through an addiction with alcohol. And one of the things that we all loved about her when, talking about my family was how she was at parties, and she was just like the life of the party, and she was just fun. And a lot of times we never realized that it was because she was drinking alcohol, and we never realized until we started to open our eyes and realize that she was suffering. And it wasn't until I started working with you that I reached out and asked for support for my sister, because she happened to kind of hit her rock bottom, and I'm so glad that she was willing to take that help and do something with it. And this is my baby sister, Angie, and she's been in recovery going on 4 years now.
Rumor has it when's your 4-year anniversary?
This Friday.
This coming Friday?
Yes.
Whoop, whoop. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's a very big deal.
Absolutely. And then she, through her recovery, found this beautiful man and fell in love with him, and they got married, and he's now my brother-in-law, and I love him to death. And I love both of them, and they support each other, and what an inspiration it is to see both of them support each other and fight for each other and want each other to win so bad. So to be an observer and watch that is just an incredible experience.
Well, welcome to the show, James. And how long you been sober?
I've been sober for 17 years.
17 years. The reason I asked that, the 4 years and the 17 years, is because it's a very big deal. If you're sitting out there watching this or listening to it and you have a day sober, right on. Right on. Something that people don't necessarily understand, and I think from a family member's perspective, Alex, you had to get an education on what addiction looks like. But I think a lot of family members and a lot of people don't understand just how very severe addiction is, just how much it grabs a hold of a person. From a family member's perspective, I bet you thought, we'll just get in there and give her all the love that we can, and she's going to love us enough enough to turn around and stop drinking, right?
Yeah, I had no idea that it was going to be a journey and a challenging road to embark on. I remember when she decided that she was going to, grab a hold of her life and take herself on to that next level. She had asked us to be a part of her journey. And I looked at her and I said, whatever you need, we're there for you. And I'm so proud of her. And I know that she's, been facing challenges left and right, and she's overcoming and she's persevering. So I'm excited for her.
Hey, Angie, let me ask you a question. Alex described it as, you were the life of the party, and they didn't know that you struggled with alcohol. And what was it like to have this secret going on that your family didn't know about? How was that? How hard is that to struggle with?
Well, I thought they knew because I usually got there, I was already drunk, and I was pretty sure everybody knew. I didn't think I was really keeping a secret, but now I know that they just thought it was my personality to be life of the party, and in reality, I'm actually very shy.
Right.
The anxiety comes up and all that stuff now that I am sober, and I think that's why I hid behind the alcohol.
Did you know you had a problem back then? Or was it,
With
or was it,
alcohol?
or was it a secret to you too? I mean, alcoholism, right?
I think when you wake up every day and you start your morning off and you see everybody else isn't starting their day that way, I knew I had a problem. I didn't know what to do about it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
In transformational work, we call it pretending not to know.
Yeah.
And I never realized how powerful that distinction is until I started looking at some of the things that I'm pretending not to know. That's when you have that awakening. But I think we do a lot of things in our life that aren't our highest selves, that we just pretend or we just kind of ignore it subtly until somebody calls us out on it. And I think it was at a certain point, she just kept getting more out of control and more out of control. And some of the stories started to scare us. And I love her to death, that I didn't want to lose her. And so I tried everything I could to as far as all the way up to the highest level of ignoring her or not taking her calls or turning my back on her. I mean, I was desperate to figure out what was it going to take. And that was a whole learning process in itself.
Yeah, anything, family members will try anything they can to get their loved one that, the help that they think they need, right? And I love something that you said, Angie, was, my family thought, because they'd see me drinking, they thought I'm the life of the party, I'm fun, I'm outgoing, all this stuff, but that's not me, right?
Yeah.
Is I'm riddled with anxiety and I'm shy and I'm locked up. And what a lot of people don't understand about addiction is the difference with somebody whose problem is alcohol and who is an alcoholic. Now, that might sound like the same thing, right? But somebody whose problem is alcohol, they get in trouble with alcohol, and if they just stop drinking, everything's cool. With somebody who is an alcoholic, the solution is alcohol. And what I mean by that is life is so difficult, and whether or not it is formal, like a mental health diagnosis or co-occurring disorders like an anxiety disorder or something like that, when I drink alcohol, it's sort of like my medicine. It allows me to come out and play. And when I don't have it, I'm locked up, I'm shy, I'm anxiety ridden, I'm depressed, I'm withdrawn, I'm all of that stuff. And so my problem is not necessarily the alcohol. My problem is the life that I'm living, right? And I think that's very common if you go to some meetings and you start if anyone's listening that's not an alcoholic or a drug addict and you want to understand it better, I would suggest find some open NA or AA meetings and especially speaker meetings and go there and just listen to the stories. Just listen to the stories. It's very common what you'll hear is before I ever started drinking or using drugs, I was different.
Mm-hmm.
I felt different, right? Is that your story as well, James?
It is. One thing back to Angie and Alex that I picked up on, and that's the lie I told myself, is that I'm not hurting anybody. I'm just doing drugs, and I'm only hurting me.
Right.
I'm the one going to jail. I'm the one homeless. I'm the one stealing. I'm the one that's, down and out. And to hear Alex talk about Angie, that, the whole family was hurt, it just goes to show that the pain is not just self-inflicted, it's family-inflicted. And I did the same thing. When I was drinking and using, I destroyed every relationship I had, starting with my mom. And she's my biggest supporter now, but at the time, yeah, I drank and used drugs and thought it was, I'm not hurting anybody but myself, and I really, I just really trashed the relationships, all the relationships in my life.
Well, and what's so tricky, addiction and the recovery from addiction it's not a simple road. It's multifaceted. There's a lot of different stuff going on at the same time. And what's tricky about it is I can be in a world where I'm using drugs or I'm drinking and I'm hurting everybody around me. And part of the disease is that it centers in the mind and it tells me these lies. Like I'm only hurting myself. If you would just back off, there wouldn't be a problem here. Yes. If it wasn't against the law, it wouldn't be a big deal or whatever, right? Whatever story I got to make up to keep doing the behavior. And that's the trickiest thing about this addiction is that it centers in the mind and it lies to us and tells us it's all your fault.
So you create justifications to keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. And like you talked about, in transformational work, I got a lot of stuff that's sort of behind the curtain that I don't even know is going on, right? I'm like the wizard behind that curtain, right? And I don't even know what's going on until I do. And the same thing goes on, whether we're talking addiction or anything else, is my brain will hold on to something that I'm doing that is maybe bad for me. My brain will make every excuse and every justification in the world to keep it going.
Some of those justifications I've heard even other people that, and I don't know, you guys might have to course correct me, but I hear this term functioning alcoholic or functioning addict. And I think it's a justification of, well, I pay my bills. Right. Or I get up and go to work the next morning, or whatever it is that they feel like they're able to be at par with, then they justify that, my behavior or my drinking or my drug abuse, as long as I'm able to function in my life, that it's okay.
Yeah. Well, and the story changes. I mean, what kind of stories did your head tell you at the very end to keep it going?
Well,
at least I'm not. At least I'm not that guy.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because I used to be my drug of choice is meth, and I would be up for days at a time, and I'd be riding a bicycle around town at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would always ride past this AA hall, and I always thought, I'm glad I'm not one of those guys.
Yeah, at least I'm right.
Yeah.
At least I'm not one of those low down alcoholics.
Right. And I don't have to go to those meetings, and I'm not. I thought alcoholics were Otis the town drunk.
Got it.
I was 30 years old, and I thought I had it going on a bicycle
at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, 4 o'clock in the morning. I told myself a lot of lies that, I thought I was a functioning addict. Of course, I wouldn't have electricity or food, or, my rent would always be late. Or I'd be homeless, living in an aluminum shed, but I had it going on.
Right.
And that's the disease telling me that I was okay, that I was, that I was functioning, and there was no functioning in that.
So how do you point that out to somebody? If you're a family member that's watching, someone that you love slowly destroy themselves or overlook the prices they're paying, or, if they're not looking at it or ignoring it, and you're not, how do you get that message across, or can you? Or like, where do you stop?
For me, there was no getting the message across. It wasn't until I saw it for myself. Right. Like, my mom moved to another state because of the destruction I was causing. And it wasn't until my parole officer said, you got to go to rehab. And then I was forced to go to rehab. And when I got there, I was told that I was basically doing time, that I was complying with the rules of the rehab. And at the time, I heard a guy share my story from in a panel that came up on through a program. And when he shared my story, not exactly the details, but the feelings. And that's what clicked with me, like, hey, maybe there's another way than going to prison, than being homeless, than the whole scene. And at that point, I started listening and really paying attention to what people had to say. And when I did, I started seeing similarities. And when I started seeing similarities, I could relate. And when I could relate, I started following that path instead of the path that I was on.
As much as I want to believe that you have to hit rock bottom, like everyone has to hit their rock bottom before they have their awakening, as the other person that loves you and cares for you and wants you to have that, it's hard for me to just accept that there's nothing I can say or do. So I'm still going to give myself permission to keep planting seeds or keep holding the mirror up in your face. I just got to figure out how to do it in a more empowering way rather than a disempowering way. Like, how do I plant the seed such that those seeds multiply to the point that it helps you hit, run its course, so that when you hit rock bottom, some of those seeds start sprouting from the people that love you the most. Does that help at all?
That would be an Al-Anon, wouldn't it? To teach
Well-
you the healthy way to support an alcoholic in your life or an addict, the things you do and you don't do.
Yeah, like the codependency
Yeah.
and those kinds of things.
What we teach to our family is every family group that I have, one of the things that I always say is no matter who brought you to this room, you are here for yourself. When you walk in the door, whether you're the active addict or alcoholic, or you're the family member, when you sit in that room, you're here for yourself. And what we teach them to do is to learn how to set healthy boundaries. So you asked the question earlier, like, how do I get that across to my loved one? What you say is your truth. Here's what I see, and here's what I'm willing to put up with, and you do not cross that line.
So you're saying have your own healthy boundaries that you let the person know what you will tolerate, what you won't tolerate
And
in the relationship.
Absolutely. And keep absolutely, when you say I'm going to give myself permission to keep putting a mirror in their face, absolutely keep doing that. Keep speaking your truth. The truth is that I see that you're addicted to drugs, and I'm not going to put up with it, and you're not going to live in my house as long as you're doing that, or you're not going to do this, or I'm not going to pay for, or whatever.
Right.
Whatever that looks like. Whatever your boundary is, stick by your
See,
boundary.
and I think that's what intuitively, and I didn't go to meetings or Al-Anon, but intuitively I knew that my spirit was telling me that that's what I should be doing, which was I want to be able to put my head on the pillow at night and know that I didn't co-contribute to your disease. Like, I didn't make it easier for you to go get high or go get loaded or whatever. Like I have my own boundaries, I have my own standards, and I got to learn how to take a stand for me and my family as well, and to be able to feel comfortable enough letting her know that as well. And I mean, I tried everything. We went around and up and down. I'm so grateful that in her own journey, she hit her own rock bottom and she reached out and responded to the support.
Well, and what happens is family members don't often know what that looks like. When I say to people, set a healthy boundary, healthy people do. Healthy people, you don't even have to say that to them. They're
Right.
already setting boundaries.
Right.
So here's what I'm willing to put up
Right.
with, here's what I'm not. But for somebody who, let's say you got a husband and wife, and a husband or wife is the one drinking or using drugs, and they've been in that relationship for 20 years going through that. You have somebody who has not been setting healthy boundaries and is getting sucked into that disease
it.
for the last 20 years. So they have no idea. So we'll get family members in, and I'll say, when's the last time that you did something just for you? And they look at me cross-eyed. They have no idea what I'm talking about because their life has been so enmeshed in this addiction for so long that they have no idea how to take care of themselves. So some of the work that we do is saying, now that you're here, let's talk about what taking care of you looks like. And in doing so, when I start to work on myself as a family member or as a recovering person, what happens is I automatically set healthy boundaries. I automatically know what's good and what's bad for me because I'm taking care of myself. And what that does for the addict is it raises their bottom. See, in today's world, it sucks to sit back. You can't just run away and say, let them hit a bottom. You can't do that because the bottoms today are death.
I know.
Not that they haven't always been, but it's so much more with the opiates and everything that are out there. People are dying left and right, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, right? And so if we just walk away and say, let them hit a bottom, a lot of these people are going to be dead if we do that. What we need to do is get in there and set healthy boundaries, and what that does is it raises the bottom. It does things like what happened with James, is you get a parole officer that says, no, you need to get into a program or else. And I love the story that you tell because that's my story too. I didn't go into the rooms of a 12-step meeting and into treatment centers because I just decided I wanted to change my life one day.
Does it ever happen like that?
Well, it does.
It does.
Some people
Does
do.
it really?
Yeah,
Oh,
some people
okay.
do.
So you've had her stories like that.
Some people
Yeah.
do. But what happened for me is in the facing of all those consequences, like the parole and the this and the that, in the facing of those consequences, I was exposed to recovery. And there's this old myth that says you have to want it in order to get it, and that's not the truth. You have to be exposed to it. in order to get it. So whatever forces them into the room. If you got to tell your loved one you can't live here unless you go into a treatment program, God bless, man, do it. Because it gets them in the program. And then when they're sitting in the program, you get a panel or something, right?
It makes them aware of the problem. And
Yeah.
once they're aware of the problem, they can start moving towards a solution. Or if they decide to relapse, they still know that in the back of their mind that there is a solution should they choose to reach out for it.
I call it trickery.
Hey, whatever.
No, believe me. Yeah, I'm totally for whatever it takes, because even in my teen trainings, for the teenagers to show up to my training, no teenager wants to do one of my trainings. So I tell them,
get him a gift card or something?
yeah, so actually, no, I tell the parents, do whatever
That's
it takes
right.
to get there.
That's right.
Give me the first 3 hours to enroll them into seeing the value for themselves. And it's almost similar to the story that people have when they go to a meeting. They might go there for their wife, or they might go because they are forced to go. But I think it's something like when you're sitting in there and you start to just sit in the corner and you're listening, all of a sudden you start to identify, hey, that's me, or hey, I do that. And it's almost like you get tricked into it. So, and I guess maybe is that kind of how it works, or
Sometimes. I mean, so there are some people who,
Come in for a cup of coffee or to get out of the cold. You know, sometimes
Yeah.
they're just looking
oh
for a
wow.
place.
and they hear
They
the message.
stumble in, yeah.
I could tell you a handful of stories.
How about like I've invited my friend and
I can tell you a handful of stories about people. I know one girl that's sober today because she was stalking somebody else.
Nice.
I want to know where they're at. I don't want to know who
No
they're meeting.
way.
So she would come in and sit in the back of the meeting and spy on her loved one to make sure that they weren't hooking up with somebody else or doing the wrong thing. And she sat in those meetings and she heard the message. What's funny about it is the other person didn't stay sober. It's not funny, but ironic maybe, is the other person didn't stay sober.
Right.
And she did. And now my friend just took like an 8-year cake or something. And
Wow.
that's her story, right?
what's it like to be in a meeting like that and have somebody stand up and say and acknowledge that? Like, I came here just to support them, and all of a sudden they just start breaking down. Isn't that it give you like goosebumps to experience
And
that?
if you're sitting in a 12-step meeting and somebody shares that, everybody understands that that is a power greater than ourselves that is orchestrating that right there.
Nice.
That there is some whatever that's running the
Right,
universe
right.
that is putting all that
That's
stuff
right,
together,
yeah.
man, and nothing's lost.
And you were supposed to be here.
Of course, yeah, and nothing's lost. What's even more powerful is the person that's having that experience cannot deny. There's too many coincidental things that happen for me to be sitting here today to say that I'm not supposed to be here.
I tell you what, when we come back from the break, I would love to ask both of them what that moment looked like for them when they had that aha, and when it came and what it looked like.
Yeah, what's your moment of clarity? This is Bob Sheritz of the Way Out Recovery Hour, and we will be back in a couple of minutes.
What to do, what to do. Your child's birthday is almost here. Put your birthday plans on ice. Ice Station Valencia. Throw a hassle-free party for 10 or more with an Ice Station party package. Public skating, rental skates, group lesson, birthday cake, pizza, soft drinks, party favors, and a decorated party area. Your party hostess will have a gift for your birthday child. For your fun ice skating party, call 775-8686 and keep your party cool. Ice Station Valencia, across the street from Valencia High.
Come join me, Arif Halby, for Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Every Tuesday at noon, we uncover ways to help you manage your money, get out of debt, and prepare for your retirement. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Are you not sure if you can retire yet? Listen to us and learn about tips for savings, retirement strategies, and so much more. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour on your hometown station, KHTS.
Weekends are now exciting in Santa Clarita as Persia Hookah Lounge hosts its House of Entertainment every weekend night from 8 to 11. Thursdays feature a DJ on the hookah patio. Stop by Fridays for performances by Belly Dancer of the Universe winner Jasmina, or Saturdays to hear great local live bands. Persia Lounge also caters for both homes and businesses, starting as low as $8. Discover Persia Hookah Lounge on Main Street, where it's all happening in Old Town Newhall. Persia-lounge.com.
This holiday season, Party Homes has a special gift for homebuyers. Shiny new appliances, merry and bright. Right now, during our Home for the Holidays event, when you buy a new move-in ready home at Arista or Verano before December 31st, we'll outfit your new home with a brand new GE washer, dryer, and French door refrigerator. Don't wait, this special offer ends December 31st, 2017. Visit partyhomes.com/home for the holidays for details.
Mission Valley Bank puts the community in community banking. They strive to be your most trusted bank. Mission Valley Bank is happy to sponsor KHTS Holiday Music. Happy holidays!
KHTS Holiday Music also brought to you by Chiquita Canyon.
From all of us at Chiquita Canyon, we'd like to wish you and your family a happy, prosperous holiday season. This year, Chiquita Canyon is proud to sponsor holiday music on your local hometown station, KHTS. Happy holidays.
Your hometown station, KHTS.
We fought so hard, now we gotta get back what we lost. I thought you'd come, but you were with me all alone.
Welcome back to the Way Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sheritz, and if you're just joining us, man, we're having a wonderful show talking with people in recovery and a family member in recovery as well, and just kind of laying out what addiction and alcoholism and recovery looks like. Before the break, we were talking about the different ways with which people find themselves either in treatment centers or 12-step meetings or hitting a bottom, or having that awakening moment that says, aha. And inside of the rooms at 12-step, we call that a moment of clarity, and just because I have a moment of clarity doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to turn my life around, but we have these moments where all of a sudden it's very clear that something's wrong here, that I need to make some dramatic changes in my life. What I had always done with that in my own addiction is I would have those times when I could see the conditions of my life just for a minute. And what would happen is I would look around and there was no place to go, like no way to change is what it felt like. And so I would just go, I better get something to take so that I don't have to feel this anymore. And you just run from that. But there are certain times when I'm sitting in a treatment center or I'm sitting in a jail cell or I'm sitting in my room alone when I can't run from that moment of clarity anymore, And we all have those. I think if I was to put one condition on anybody's recovery and the one thing that is absolutely necessary, that would have to be surrender. There has to be a moment and maybe moments of surrenders where I know that I cannot do this and I must have some help, and then, of course, reach out for help. So, James, 17 years ago, you hit a bottom sitting in a treatment center, right?
Yep.
After your parole officer told you, what does that moment of clarity look like for you?
Well, the actual moment of clarity, I can remember it like it happened yesterday. Excuse me. I was sharing earlier about Tony that had shared his story from a podium that I identified with 100%. And that wasn't the full moment of clarity. You mentioned having multiple ones. A few weeks later when I was in this treatment center, all the guys that I ran with got busted for manufacture of methamphetamines. And they got 20-year prison sentences. And at that moment, that was my moment of clarity that something needs to change in my life, because I would have been there had I not had the parole officer. Parole sent me to rehab.
Have you had an opportunity to go back to that parole officer and thank him?
He's retired.
Yeah. Isn't that cool when you get to do that?
It's
cool when you get to do that.
I have gone back. I have gone back and I've actually spoken at prison panels.
Right.
And, they don't want to hear it, just like I didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But you never
they
know.
have to. They're a captive audience.
Right. I can't speak about them. I didn't want to hear it when I had to sit through it. I've been back, and I've been back to the treatment center I was at, and that was my moment of clarity. And I'd heard in the meetings at this treatment center that, give us 12 months, we'll gladly refund your misery.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's heard it. I listened to it. So I said, you know what? I'll try it for a year and we'll see what happens. And after treatment, I just followed. I did what I was told.
And what that means, if you're watching or listening and you wonder what that means, what it means is if you're sitting here right now and you're listening to this and you know that your life needs to change and you are sick of what you're doing, give a 100% commitment, whatever the time length is, whether it's a year, 6 months, 3 months, whatever. Give 100% commitment to the recovery process. And if you have given it your all after 3 months or 6 months or a year, and you don't feel like it's working after giving it your all, you can gladly go back to the way that it was. Right. You can go back there. That's not going to change. Those guys are still going to be manufacturing methamphetamines
and waiting for you to plug back in.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So give us a year. Is what they're telling you in that treatment center. Give us a year of 100% of your commitment, and if things don't change, you can go right back to where.
So was the reality that you could go to prison? Is that what it was?
Back to prison.
Back to prison.
Yeah.
For one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also when you're sitting in a place where you should have been with those people. You know what I mean? Like
you normally would be there. It's your normal routine.
Yeah. And for some reason, there's just a little bit of a shift, and circumstances found me sitting here and them sitting there. And I get to see that from a different perspective and go, wow, I'm not going to get this chance again. Like, that's too many. I'm too lucky to be sitting here and not in that 20 years. And next time I will be with them.
So that sounds like the people that don't get on a flight for some weird reason, and the flight crashes, and they're like, wow, I was supposed to be on that plane. So they can easily interpret it as divine intervention. Absolutely. Or higher power, or there's a reason. Or maybe I should kind of take heed to these messages and do something with that new opportunity.
Right. And that's what I did, after that, they tell you, give us a year. Well, after putting myself wholeheartedly into recovery for a year, there was no way I was going to go back, because I did drugs and alcohol because I liked the effect produced by it. Well, after giving a year to being clean and sober and a 12-step program, I liked the effects produced by it way more than I ever liked the effects produced by drugs and alcohol, and I had money in my pocket, and I had real friends, and just the quality of life was so much better that there's no way I would go back.
When you say that, to me, it's really vague because you're not giving specifics. What specifics did you feel that felt better than getting high? That's as a normie, so to speak. I'm trying to figure out because it sounds like I felt better here than I did there. But give me some specifics.
I would say to start with my self-esteem. My self-esteem was so much better.
So you felt more confident?
Yeah, more confident. I don't want to use the word pride, but very, very proud of what I've accomplished in that year. I don't know. I really don't know how to put a word on it to explain the feelings, other than content. I was
at
content, at peace. Yeah.
Back in the day before so Alcoholics Anonymous is the 12-step program that's been around longer than any other ones, more than 80 years at this point. But before Alcoholics Anonymous, really nobody got sober. Really nobody got sober in numbers. I mean, there were a few people here and there. And the only thing that they had before that was they would try to get people to have what they called profound conversion experiences. And I think that's what happens. And that's what happened with James, is in that year, there's a shift. There's a profound shift that takes place in the way that you view life. And all of a sudden, the things that didn't seem as important as they were, like maybe for me, giving my brother a hug. Simple thing, right? Like just being able to spend time with my own family and give them an honest hug, and I'm not trying to hide in the bathroom or get away from them or get out so I can go get high. Just really being present for that moment. Like I would sit in those moments in my first year and I would start crying because it was such a profound moment, just being able to spend time with my family where I couldn't feel that before.
So this is how I'm hearing it. The way I'm hearing it is there's a possibility that you had some insecurities that you weren't aware of, that you were numbing yourself because you couldn't feel a certain sense of feeling fulfilled. And then when you got clean, the work you were doing while you're getting clean, whether it was therapy or support group or whatever it was, you were developing those inner qualities that was sufficient enough that you felt, like you said, full or at peace. You were like doing some healing work.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that. When I would do drugs and the people I would hang out with, I did it to be part of. And then after realizing, after getting sober and staying sober for a little while and realizing that I'm okay with who I am, and I don't need to be accepted by other people, people just gravitate to me now, which is weird. Like, not because I've got drugs or because I'm that guy, but because of who I am.
Well,
my character.
But I see it as authentic. Now you've learned how to get past you got through the healing side where you become authentic. Before you were inauthentic, trying to figure out who you are and try to be something you're not.
Right.
And so what I'm doing is I'm hearing now other people that are possibly listening to this show that might be addicted, that will never acknowledge what you're acknowledging now because you're acknowledging it in hindsight.
Right.
But ask the James back then to acknowledge this, and you wouldn't even be willing to look at that.
Never.
You would totally be like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah,
and then you would think you were that the bad guy that you were portraying to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
never
that's where
would have. Yeah.
That's where the surrender takes place. Is there has to be a surrender, and then, whether you call it faith or whatever, trust, which is difficult for addicts and alcoholics to do, is to trust in people because of this baggage that we carry around, right? Is I'm asking you to do a couple of things. Surrender all your good ideas and trust that somebody else can guide you through the process. That's a big step to take for somebody who's on the front side of it, to be able to get to the other side.
So as a counselor, as an expert in this field of recovery, you have to have a high tolerance for people's egos and attitudes and arrogance when they're using, because they are on that backside thinking they're all it. And then you get to watch them slowly go through that process of really getting to be that authentic, loving, powerful human being that they are, where they're not trying to be something, they just are that. And they get to that place. What an amazing experience that you get to walk down that journey with those types of people.
Well, and that's why we it's cool. I sit in this show week after week, and a lot of people that end up in this studio, including you guys, have dedicated your lives to the pursuit of helping other people. You've dedicated your lives to the pursuit of helping other people. And why do we do that? Why do we do that? Because it can be frustrating, right? To try to sponsor somebody who doesn't want to do the work, and how frustrating that can be. Or to try to, right? I see it. Or to try to counsel somebody, or to try to get somebody in a transformational workshop that just doesn't want to be there, right? But if they stay and they do the work, we know that it works. We're sitting here as testimony to it works, and we get to watch that transformation.
But doesn't it remind you? Doesn't it remind you of you when you see somebody like that, and you're like, "Oh my God, this was me 30 years ago or 10 years ago."
But if I'm focusing on your problems and helping you overcome your challenges, mine don't seem that big.
And that's where the self-esteem comes in too. Is, maybe I wasn't with those guys doing those 20-year sentences so that I could be sitting here today helping this guy sitting in front of me. Right. And when I do that, there's no better feeling than that now I have a purpose.
Yeah. In transformational work, it's the same. When you start to be coached or mentored and along your journey, and as you start to understand distinctions and become more powerful, then you slowly start to be a coach. And then you're like a mini coach. You're coaching other people. And through that process, you're helping you evolve to the next level. And I sort of see it same in recovery, is now you lock on focus on helping others, and then you're growing as well in contingency with them.
Well, there's a lot of, and so back to the work, the transformation that we have to go through. A lot of people find it through the 12 steps.
Right.
You can do that same kind of work with a therapist or a professional counselor who knows the process within the 12 steps. So I get people in that are resistant to the 12 steps, and I go, you know what? Let's not even do those 12 steps, and I'll take them through the same process without even calling it the 12 steps. Right? Let's write an inventory. Let's start to look at that stuff. Let's surrender. Let's do all that stuff. So it's exactly the same work, but we call it whatever.
That's right.
That's trickery.
Yeah, well, you customize it towards what they need, and because not everyone's at the same level.
Right.
Some of us have limiting beliefs, like, oh, I don't talk in front of people. I don't open up and share in front of groups. Right. But if you get them in a smaller setting, almost they're now just vulnerable and they're opening up. So you're gonna have to kind of customize your therapy to somebody.
We meet them where they're at.
That's right.
We meet them where they're at. Angie, you so you got sober and relapsed and then got sober again. Did it take you a couple of times to do that?
Just once. I was going to AA meetings, but I didn't fully understand the program. I first, like I shared, thought that I was just going to check a meeting out and I was still going to be able to drink. I didn't know Alcoholics Anonymous meant, you were going to...
Abstinence?
Yes. Then I worked with a couple of sponsors, and I remember the first one didn't give me the complete set of rules because they don't bombard you when you first come. Everything's slow. So I remember I had 2 months, and then some friends were smoking some marijuana, and I got high. And when I told my sponsor, she says, well, you just lost your time. And I was like, well, I didn't know that.
Wait a minute,
Alcohol
I
was
didn't
my
drink.
program. Yeah, I didn't drink. So I lost my time, and then I got into a relationship, and that's also something that can distract you from the program. So I did every other way. I didn't get sober right away. Then when I heard that the program had to find a higher power, I was very nervous about that. There was some healing I needed to do with the Catholic religion I had, and so I had to be baby steps with that it was okay, just to believe that there was something bigger than myself. And so surrender was my moment of clarity, because all those years I was fighting it. I wanted recovery because for me, I was facing not wanting to live. And that was very scary, and it's very true. And as I think about the 4 years, I see how much I come to love life now and how much the program has given me and sobriety, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, it sounds like you are on the path pointed towards a power greater than yourself, right? You're finding
Yes, I
that
definitely believe
that
that.
higher power.
Yeah, but it was my experience that made me not believe that there was a God out there.
Yeah. Would it be fair to say that the reason that you're sitting here with 4 years today is because you've gone through that 12-step process?
Yeah, I think the biggest one for me was number one, because I know I had 10 months and I relapsed, and that my moment of clarity was waking up in the passenger side of my car in the cold, not knowing how I got there, what had happened. And my family members shared with me that they thought I was going to die that night out in the cold. And they said it was disgusting to watch my behavior. And to get that feedback after having a good chunk of time, 10 months, I knew that I belonged in this program. There was no, what is it when they say you can go back out and try some...
controlled drinking?
Yes, controlled drinking.
There's where controlled drinking ends up, right?
I didn't have that anymore. I lost my ability to control.
Sometimes I get... mean looks from family members when I'm in my family groups, and I will use the term successful relapse. But I think some people have to have the experience that you had in order to understand the difference between somebody who can drink without consequences and somebody who has no control over it,
Yeah.
And that step one that you mentioned is the admission, it is simply an admission. We admit that we are powerless.
Fully conclude to your innermost self that you are alcoholic. Yeah, it was like through and through. I had to prove that, and that was proof.
So what was it before that? I reserve a 2% that I'm possibly not, and you just tuck it away? Is that?
I think what a lot of people do, I spent many, many years thinking if I could just get out of this town, if I didn't grow up in that family, if they would just back off, if I had a better job, if I made more money, if I had a different girlfriend, whatever, right? That it was my outside circumstances were the reason that I couldn't control my drinking and drug use. That's what I thought.
And if I can fine-tune all of these, then everything's going to be great.
Then why not have a beer every once in a while?
But based on results, you keep falling off every time.
What happens is I can have all the plans in the world, but as soon as I get a drink or a drug in me, it's a different person making the decisions. Mm-hmm. It changes who we are the minute, and that's the difference between somebody who has crossed the line into addiction and somebody who hasn't. Is that somebody who has not, they might get in a little trouble now and again, or even sometimes a lot of trouble, but they have the ability within them to stop or moderate when they want to. The person who has crossed the line into addiction, once we put anything, and you had mentioned smoking a little weed and having to change your sobriety date. Why is it important to have complete abstinence? Because as soon as I smoke that weed, all of a sudden my thinking starts to change. And I start to think, a couple of beers might be okay, or smoke a little more weed.
Absolutely.
And the person who's now making the decisions is not the person who's making the decisions.
Is that the part where you notice, oh my God, is that the scary part when that little voice comes out? To start now wanting to lead you down that road
If you can
again?
even notice. A lot of times we can't even notice.
Oh, got it.
Where all of a sudden we're waking up out of a blackout in my car going, what the hell happened, And I don't even know. And all I can remember was showing up to that party and having that one beer.
Yeah.
And then that's it. It's
like
all blank.
in Angie's story where she talked about the loved one giving her that feedback about how disgusting and you were
that you?
No, it wasn't me. But I'm glad that loved one said that to her because it kind of piggybacks off of what I was saying earlier, that we might be powerless in not being able to make the choice for her, but we could help put those seeds in there. We can contribute in some way to hold that mirror up and go, look, this is how you operated last night. This is how disgusting you look. This is how embarrassed you made everybody look. And we can kind of be a part of the process. Yep. But we can't ultimately make that decision. She has to do that, and they have to make that choice for themselves.
Yeah, but like you said, we keep planting the seeds and keep putting that mirror up in front of them because her experience is what got her to change.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that earlier you said that it doesn't mean to just decide, well, you're going to hit rock bottom and decide for yourself, so then it frees me up and I get to walk away. No. There's still an active role that we can still participate in. We just got to do it in a healthy way.
Well, and the whole family is a system, and you guys are connected whether you like it or not.
I found that out really quick.
Whether you like it or not. And so, you're born into a family and you're invested and you have to be. And
what about the families that don't have loved ones or they've burned those bridges where people aren't there rigorously committed to go that distance and they just turn their back on them?
Well, when we come back after this break, let's talk about support. In the last couple of minutes that we have, what can people do if they don't have any support out there and they need the help? Because support is something that you need in order to recover. We have to have a village around us.
You got to get it somewhere.
We have to have something. So this is the Way Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sheritz. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Santa Clarita Philharmonic has begun its season of free concerts. The SCP is a non-profit community-based volunteer symphony orchestra comprised of local musicians from throughout the Santa Clarita Valley who are dedicated to providing quality classical music for the residents of the Santa Clarita Valley. Like the Santa Clarita Philharmonic on Facebook or visit santaclaritaphilharmonic.org for more information.
It's time to plan that incredible holiday feast, which means it's time to visit Bob's Country Meats. You see, Bob's Country Meats has the finest prime ribs, turkey, and ham. You'll taste the difference. Want to make your holiday feast really stand out? How about serving a traditional Christmas goose? Goose, ribs, prime rib, ham, turkey. You know you'll get the best at Santa Clarita's store for quality meats. Bob's Country Meats. Place your order now on Soledad in Canyon Country. This holiday, make it Bob's Country Meats.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
Hometown. Your hometown station.
We fought so hard, now we gotta get back what we lost. I thought you'd come, but you were with me all alone.
Welcome back to the Way Out Recovery Hour, and holy moly, what a wonderful show. God, recovery is absolutely my favorite topic. Where you had mentioned earlier, Alex, about we talked about the rewards of helping others, and we live in a world of recovery, and so we're living it, we're breathing it, we're talking about it, and you're right. This show, for those that are listening, listen to the words that these people, that the recovering folks have talked about today, because there's some great tips. If you're sitting out there and you need some help, please reach out. Please reach out. Asking for help is the first step. We oftentimes don't have the supportive family around us for whatever reason. Maybe some of them are using or drinking. Maybe we've burned them out, to where they're just like, catch me later when you're doing better. What do we do if we don't have support? Maybe you guys can answer that question. Where can I find support if I'm sitting out there wanting to recover and my family is burned out?
Well, if you know anybody else in recovery, just ask them where to go. There's AA meetings. Check out an inpatient and outpatient program. The hardest part, though, is just to be patient for that road to take its course. But like you said earlier, you are where you're supposed to be. If you come to a meeting, you check it out. Just don't leave.
So there's no quick fix?
No. No.
We all, us addicts, we want our instant gratification. So what Angie said was, hang on, it takes a little while.
For me, I live of the axiom, when the student is ready, the teacher or teachers will appear. It's almost like the universe is so powerful that when you decide you're ready and you flip that switch within yourself, there's a plethora of human beings that have already walked your path, that are ready and willing to support you. And it's almost like maybe a glow will come out of you, or this weird light will shine out of you, and the right person will bump into you or say something to you or invite you to get your own support. It happens, but I think it has to happen here first, right?
Yeah.
I think that if you're not sure if you're an alcoholic or an addict, and the hardest thing is to pick up that 10,000-pound phone. This day and age, the digital age, you can Google any 12-step program and find a local central office, find a meeting. If you don't have a ride, people will always come pick you up.
Yep.
That's been my experience.
Yep.
And when you get there, just say you're new. You don't have to identify as an addict or an alcoholic. Just say you're new. If anything, you'll get a cup of coffee, maybe meet a couple of friends. Yeah. And you'll either realize that you're just like me, or you're nothing like me, and that the program isn't for you.
I wonder how many people are afraid of the unknown, of what a meeting actually looks like. Yeah. And I know you can't go in there and record it or walk somebody through that in a YouTube video, because it's kind of a special place where you don't let cameras in. But I wonder how many people just think to themselves, they make up these crazy stories about, oh my God, not knowing what it looks like to walk in the door, if they're going to be put in the front row, or if they're going to be asked to talk. You know what I mean? It's like our minds make up these crazy stories of what it's like to walk in there for the first time.
Yeah, I like to sort of challenge the thinking of people who are going through that and say, in your addiction, you were willing to walk down to the projects in the middle of Pacoima at 2 o'clock in the morning,
But to walk in a room of people that are going to embrace you and give you a cup of coffee,
and it's not like that for everybody. Not everybody's like picking up at the PJs, right? But think about the situations that we put ourselves in with drinking or drug use, no matter what level you're on, right? And how scary those can be. And all we're asking is for a little faith. And my experience is this, is that the moment that I said, I need help out loud, I need help. What happened for me was exactly what you're saying, is that the universe heard that, and it knew that I was sincere, and it picked me up, and it took me on this ride and this journey of recovery, and here I sit today, It is that admission. It's that surrender. It's me asking for help, which is the first step.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks, you can always watch this on our Facebook page at The Way Out Recovery SCV. You can watch it on KHTS Facebook page. You can go to thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com or call us at 296-4444. James, Angie, Alex, thank you very much.
Happy holidays to everybody.
All right, folks. See you next week.
There's no privacy.